G'day, it's Robbie again. Well, in the last couple of videos I show how to make a gear, and I said that after cutting the teeth, which I did successfully, I now had to cut the splines in it. Now here's another homemade one I made, and I've cut the splines. Now the primary objective is to index it correctly. Now this is a 4-spline gear carrier, which is a real bastard. Why they did that is ridiculous. You only need 1 spline just to keep it in position, take the load, but anyway they did 4. So you have to index it correctly, and then you have to cut the grooves for the splines. I think I did this with a file. This was done years ago. But a way to do it, speed things up, is to actually use an indexing disc. This is a paper chart, the same as we use to cut the teeth. This is one that just fits between the back of the chuck and the chuck mounting plate. 4 segments, and you then use a die grinder on an angle with a carbide burr in it. Use some cutting fluid as well, and you can put your reference marks in there. You can grind right through. Now you can see how I've gripped this. I've got this in a split disc. I machined up a carrier for it. I mean, remember, this won't fit in ER32 collet set. It's too big. They're probably going ER40, but the point is, whatever gear you've got, if it's bigger than a collet set, well, it's not going to go in, and you want to protect the teeth. So you just machine up get a bit of old tube and just machine up a carrier, and that just protects the teeth and keeps everything aligned correctly, you know, so that you're not pulling up on a valley rather than a tooth tip. So you always want to do it this way. Piss easy to do. So yeah, you can see I've done the 4 references on it with the pencil air die grinder. Now I could either, you've got 2 choices now. You could either get a file and file it through, and what I did early on is you get a file of the right grade, you just cut it down the guts, cut it in half down the centre, and that way you can fit it in the hole, and you can use the edge to file away the aluminium. Now also, if you ever do it that way, grind one side of the file, you know, you got half a file basically, full length. Grind all the teeth off the one side so that it's the exact width, and as it cuts down through, it's not going to be cutting on both sides all the time. You can actually keep the pressure on the no tooth side, the no cutting side of the file, and that way it won't make a wider hole than a wider, you know, spline carrier groove than you want. The no cutting side will just act as a guide, and things will work out quite well that way. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to use the Hilda in the same setup as this, and I'm going to use, these are 5mm carrier slots. Okay, 5mm spline housing carriers on there. I'm going to use a 5mm end mill on the same configuration on an angle, and I'm going to run it through with the Hilda on an angle like this. That'll open those reference points out to 5mm, and then I'll just finish off with a file, just do the last little bit. I mean, if this wasn't such a small diameter gear and I had a lot more metal, you could actually go through, and it doesn't matter if it's got a rounded end on it, because it's all located in the centre, and all the splines do is just stop the gear from turning on the centre shaft. So the actual end of the splines doesn't matter if it's flat or round. You know, it makes no difference really, because as I said, all the location is done on that centre section. That's why when you machine these up, you have to get that centre section as a tighter fit as possible. So the shaft that you use to mount it has to be the exact same diameter as the carrier diameter. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's how we're going to do it, and yeah, I'll get on with it. the reason you bring the cover in on an angle is so that you can reduce as much as possible the curvature effect that you would get on the base of the valley. By coming in horizontally at 90 degrees to it, you're going to get the full curvature effect, but by coming in on an angle, you basically reduce the curve effect because you're coming over, you're laying almost, heading towards being flat, in which case there would be no curve effect. So it's about all you can do to try and negate the curvature from the end mill. So we'll do that. Okay, here's the result. That's our carrier. So it's indexed perfectly, and normally I would go in deeper, but as this is a very small diameter gear, I don't want to go any deeper than I have, otherwise I weaken it too much. And I'll now file it so the carrier fits perfectly, and as it is, I probably wouldn't have liked to have gone that deep really, but I've got no choice. So okay, here's the gear carrier, so that's just got to go in. It's very close, as you can see, just wants it a little bit off of the curvature, and it should drop straight in. Pretty cool, eh? It's an easy way of doing it, and yeah, it'll do the job. This will be a very low stress gear. I'll only use this for small boring bars. I wouldn't normally use it, so I'm not fussed. But you certainly wouldn't want to go any deeper than that. That would still give plenty of strength. I mean, the teeth are smaller section than that section there, so it's way stronger than the teeth are going to be. But even so, but yeah, if you had a bigger diameter gear, you could actually just use the end mill and do the whole job with the end mill, and the curvature on the end wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. All right. This is the cut down file with the sides ground off that I talked about earlier. I've got one that's got one side ground. This one's got both sides ground, so it's made for this job. So we just take that radius off a bit. Won't need much. So it's just going to be trial and error on this. Use some plates so you don't damage the finish. Just do it until you get it right. So there it is. Didn't turn out too bad, did it? Looks alright. Yeah, that'll do the job quite nicely. So here's our new gear in position. This is the 30 that would normally be there. That's homemade as well. I mean, that's homemade, that's homemade. A lot of them are homemade, that one's homemade. This thing's had a seriously hard life, so now I just have to put on the retaining clip, put a bit of oil on and try it out. So there you go, smooth as silk. Reverse tumbler lever's not moving at all. Shows that it's perfectly round. Yeah, spinning at 460, no problem whatsoever. Perfecto. Well, you can see how 28 tooth gear is as small as you really want to go, because you're right down to the edge of the clip. So, you know, you wouldn't want to go any smaller than 28, I don't think. And the wall thickness is still pretty good, quite acceptable. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. It turned out well. The home cast aluminium will do the job. And here's another one here, a home cast. It's been there for about 20 years. I mean, this stuff wears really well. It's pretty damn hard if you use the right aluminium, and it's certainly a better bet than using that cheesy cast iron I started with for the 26, which wouldn't have been any good anyway because it wouldn't have fitted properly. And yeah, that went in the scrap bin. So we'll stick with the aluminium, and we know that if push comes to shove, it'll tear off teeth rather than crack. Cast iron will easily shatter. It's not really good on impact like aluminium. Aluminium is malleable, you know, so it will stretch if it has to, but cast will just shatter. And I've had cast iron gears explode in the past through serious overload, shall we say. Anyway, yeah, mission complete. So that's it. Now it's just a matter of clean up the mess and go and have a beer. Yeah, it's not difficult, guys. You can all do this. It's just a matter of make the effort, apply yourself, and take your time on it. You know, you can't rush jobs like this, because if you do, well, one mistake will ruin the whole thing. Okay, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you want to know all about making gears for your lathe, check out my web pages on it. Once again, the link will be in the video description. Okay, till next time. See you around. Cheers.